All right, John, what do you think? Should we start this thing?
Let's do it.
All right, John. How are we doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you, man?
I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
Good. How was your
Yeah.
week?
It was good. It was fairly uneventful, which, I don't complain about these days.
Is your
You know?
family feeling better? Because you guys were plagued with some sickness.
Yes, but I mean, you know what this is like. Maybe it gets better as they get older. I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and so it just feels like we're constantly dealing with
Mm-hmm.
plagues and
The
sicknesses.
slurpy nose thing.
Yeah. And it's like then once somebody gets something, you just pass it around. And it's like it's the never ending plague.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean everybody's doing good. I did some house projects this week. The dog chewed up part of our carpet.
Mm.
And so I got the carpet stretcher out and the jammer tool and
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Were
and
you doing the little knee thingy? Where you're like
yes,
kneeing it?
yeah, and things like that, that's just like, man, I got done and it's perfect. You could never tell that anything was torn up. And I felt like I'm a man. You know what? I am an absolute, just stood there. I just stood there with like a coffee in my hand and just stared at fixed carpet for like an hour. And it was just,
Dude, what's funny about that is I remember there's time I was working at this place and we were having the carpet all redone in the
okay.
offices.
Yep.
And I was watching the guy do that little like knee jammer thingy to stretch it like to the end.
Right.
And it was a big, hairy, burly guy. And I actually knew the guy. I grew up with I went to school with his daughter. We were pretty good friends. And so I knew him. And oh my gosh, the whole time I'm just thinking like, dude, that is like a real manly man. As I'm like doing work on a computer, just like, yeah. And he's out there just like bang. It's just so like caveman, like just,
yeah.
You would think in this day and age, they would have some digital stretching tool. And maybe there's some like better way to do it now. But 9 times out of 10, anytime I see like a carpet company coming in to do carpet, they're on their hands and knees, banging their knees into that rubberized little stretcher thingy. And every time I'm just like, that's a real man. And now I'm going to go back to my little like computer job.
Right. Hey, I work a computer job as well, but so I get it. But it's moments like that, I have to find my pride in those. In those moments.
It's funny what you said about your kids being at that age and always being sick, because normally that's just like little kids just always have a runny nose, always have a cough, right? That's pretty normal. But like, do you find that it's different now, like post-pandemic era, where you have to like you feel like you have to justify that like it's just a cold?
100%.
It's not COVID. It's definitely not COVID.
Yes. But it's not even just with the kids. It's like I'm talking to the neighbor and I sneeze and it's like everybody free. It's like I got allergies.
Allergies.
Seasonal allergies. It's not a big deal. But yes, I think everybody everywhere is on high alert and hyper vigilant about those things. And so 100%. It's
I always just called out my next door neighbor is a physician's assistant.
Yeah.
And so so I was outside one time and we were cutting the grass, doing some yard work, and I'm sneezing. And I'm like, don't worry, Carrie. It's just I cut the grass. It's just my COVID flaring up. And like, I appreciated that. Like she gets how it all works. So I'm like, I'm good with on that side of the fence, a neighbor that understands. But yeah, definitely. I do think about that stuff. Like if you cough or anything, you're just like, nope, not COVID. I swear.
Well, that's one of the things I'd want to do. And so I'm not surprised that of all the people I know, you're the one that has made that joke. Like I want my kid to show up and like be coughing and sneezing and have the neighbors look and be like, it's just COVID. It's no big deal. Yeah. Dude, don't worry about that. It's just COVID.
Last year. So I was working in the school building, and this was before we even had students back in the building.
Okay.
One of our teachers, who was a good friend of mine, great dude, mentioned that like he had a head cold. Okay. Right. Like I got a few different head colds over the pandemic.
Yeah. Oh,
and every time I'm like
100%.
every time I'm like, quick, give me something to smell.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good. I'm good. I'm
Right,
good. Like,
that's
give me
right.
some hot sauce. Okay, no, I'm good. I'm good. And so he just mentioned, he was talking to a couple people and he mentioned that he had a cold. Like, oh
Okay.
yeah, I just got this gnarly head cold today.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's kicking my butt a little bit, but it's all good. Those other employees were so concerned about it. They complained about it and like to the principal, like all these things, so that employee
Wow.
actually, I don't think the principal did it. I think he just said, fine. They wanted him to go home. They're like, then you shouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
And so he actually had to like go home, and he was so like irritated about it that he made a doctor's appointment, went and got COVID tested. It came back negative. He didn't have it.
Sure. Yeah.
He's like, guys, I know the difference between a head cold and like these symptoms that they keep talking about.
Sure.
Yeah. And so it was just kind of funny that it was like, even at that, it was like, it's just a cold, and people were freaking out. But
So the freak out part is funny, and it's something that like I definitely want to make fun of people like that. But then like there is also the attitude of like, dude, a head cold or not, I mean, if you're sick, why not just stay home?
sure. Well,
know?
but that's become a whole different discussion nowadays.
Right. Right.
That whole like, because I mean, especially in the education world, like, I mean, there's so many, like being around little petri dishes all day long. Like, dude, I felt like the entire winter I was just constantly like phasing in and out of different head colds, like
Right.
that cycle of getting a cold and getting over it, and getting a cold and getting over it. I never got the flu. I never did get that in the 3 years, but I did get a head cold like all winter long.
Sure.
And then, and so there's a little bit of like, if I took off time every time I had a head cold when you're a teacher, you would probably, yeah, exactly. You'd never be there. Right. And so it's a little bit of a different culture there with that aspect of it. And that's been the case, I think, in every job. But now it's kind of like people are starting to raise that question, like, why not stay home?
Right.
If you're not feeling well.
Yeah. Well, what's nice, I mean, maybe not in the teachers field, as we want to get kids back into schools, but what's nice for a lot of other industries is, if we've learned anything over this last year and a half, is that we can be productive remotely.
Yeah.
And so it is nice where now it's, don't come in if you're not feeling well. Nobody wants to get that, but you can still get some work done.
Sure. And lay down on your couch and
that's right.
Blow your nose every 12 seconds or whatever you need to do.
Exactly.
Well, it's funny that you say that remote work, because now, since I'm no longer a teacher, I'm in, an aspect of software sales, called pre-sales, which is so funny to me. That's like the dumbest name for like, it's pre-sales. Well, everything before the check is written is pre-sales.
That's right.
Like, but I get it, whatever. So like we demo products and we do it online. So I'm new there. So I did my first practice demo this past week on Friday.
Okay.
And so, working through some things and kind of trying to learn all the content. But one of the positive feedbacks I got is like, wow, especially more so than most new people, you seem really comfortable presenting over video conference.
Right.
And of course, I'm cracking up because I'm like, yeah, dude, I spent the last year as a teacher, like doing the majority of my job over Zoom.
Right.
Like, I didn't once have to like holler for you to wake up. Cause like, dude, so many kids, even the kids who like I have a great relationship with and really enjoy my class, they'd be like, Higgins, I'm really sorry. But yeah, every time when we had class, I would log in so you would mark me present. I'd turn off my screen and I'd just go back to sleep. I was like, yeah, wow. I knew. I could tell. Like, when I'm calling you out and you're not responding. So it was like, I didn't once have to yell for anybody to wake up. I didn't have to ask anyone to turn their camera on, because like, I'm sure your company we have a camera on policy, right?
100%.
Turn it off if you need to, if there's something that happens. But like, for the most part, we're present, we're in meetings, our cameras are on. So I didn't have to be like, hey, are you awake? Hello? Like, sales director, are you awake? I didn't have to ask anyone to turn their camera on. I didn't have to like check. We had this little tool called Hapara, so when they were using one of the school issued Chromebooks, I could see what tabs they had open.
Oh, nice.
So I could see what they were doing during our class time on that computer. And so like when a kid's just blatantly watching YouTube, I can see it. I could also close their tabs, which was super fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
That one was fun when kids were in person too. And you'd see them screwing around like during class, and I'd like blink, blink, and start closing their video game or whatever.
Yeah,
and they're like, hey. So it was just so funny that they're like, wow, you seem really comfortable, for being new, like presenting over. And I'm just like, you have no idea how much easier this is than what I did last year.
Right. Yeah,
So,
I hadn't even considered that. I mean, that would be really good training. In my job and industry, I mean, we have and vendors we work with, we do remote demos all the time, and it really is a bit of a skill trying to keep people engaged remotely and sharing screens and talking about products and all of that. But having been in a position where you're an educator and trying to teach a bunch of teenagers who it's hard enough to get them to pay attention in person,
yeah.
much less, now being able to use technology like that one kid said, you just turn it off, go back to sleep. Dude, that's I bet that would have made you, a lot more comfortable in that environment. So that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, it was funny. My favorite was when you'd be teaching and there'd be a kid and you'd be like, hey, so-and-so, I need you to turn your camera on. Sometimes you tell them like, hey, at least turn your camera on.
Yeah.
Because we wanted everyone to have their cameras on, but if Wi-Fi was bad or glitchy, some of these kids, like, they have terrible Wi-Fi to begin with,
Sure.
terrible internet service, and there's 3 or 4 siblings all trying to do remote learning. So
right.
it was just laggy, glitchy. So
Yeah.
after like they were telling us like, no, we want everyone to have their cameras on, and like a week into it, I was like, F this. Like,
Yeah. It's not feasible. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I wasn't about to try to keep track of, okay, like I need you to send I need you to ping your internet connection and send me a screenshot so I can see how many,
man, yeah,
megabytes per second. Like, yeah, it was just so, but every once in a while I would ask certain kids, especially if they're kids that I knew that they're like, I've had them before. I was like, yeah, that kid's screwing around. I'd be like, hey, so-and-so, turn your camera on for a second. And they turn their camera on. And so like, if my webcam, if I'm looking, there's my eye line. I could tell this one kid had his laptop underneath his game. So he's sitting in like a $300 gaming chair with like the speakers built in and everything, right?
Yes.
So first of all, obviously this kid's a gamer. And then he's sitting there, and instead of looking at the camera, he's looking above it. Yeah. Like that the whole time. And I'm like, hey, so-and-so, are you paying attention? Uh-huh. And I'm like, okay, you're clearly playing video games on your computer, like, and you've got your Chromebook underneath the monitor. Like, I know what you're doing. Right.
Yes.
It's so funny. When we came back in person, he's like, oh, you could tell that? I'm like, yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I could tell that. It's funny. I was like, hey, I at least appreciated the gamesmanship.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. 100%.
But I was like, first of all, the dead giveaway was your $300 gaming chair. He's like, oh yeah, that probably makes it a little obvious, huh? Yeah, it was good. Oh man. Hey, should we take a look at an interesting news story from this week?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do we got? What do we got today?
Okay. Let me see. Boom. Okay. Well, you've got news. I still haven't done the you've got mail spoof, but it's gonna happen at some point. Okay. John, I don't know if you heard about this. Do you follow space travel much?
I've been following it the last week. I'll tell you that.
John, have you been seeing an abundance of Dr. Evil memes?
No.
Hitting the internet?
No, I've not.
So apparently this last week was finally, Elon Musk, he's got SpaceX, and they've been taking, actual astronauts, real astronauts.
That's right.
To space station. They've done like real flights and stuff. And I've known all along that like Jeff Bezos has Blue Origin. I've never seen like them actually do anything. Like same with Richard Branson. Like he's got space exploration kind of company out there too, but you don't really don't hear as much about it.
He just went out, right?
Another one.
Yep. That was one I heard about.
Mostly just hear about Elon Musk and what he's doing with SpaceX.
Right. That's right.
And so this week, Jeff Bezos went to outer space. And I got to throw this up on the screen because this just cracks me up, like this little side by side.
Yeah.
Like this guy, he goes up in a rocket that there's no way around it. Dude, it looks like a dick.
That's a dick, dude. That's a giant white dick. It's a Blue Origin on the side of it.
Which is kind of ironic too, because like I love that picture of him next to it, because like if the dude took his shirt off,
he resembles
like the rocket at least.
That's right.
I'm not saying he's phallic shaped, but I'm just saying that he does look like that rocket,
Yes.
and that rocket is definitely looks like a wang.
Yeah,
That
I
was
wonder if that was like a conscious design choice, right? I don't have anything in front of me, but I don't remember seeing photos of like what Richard Branson went up in. I
so
don't think.
his looked like an actual passenger airplane. It was like a triple
Oh, that's
airplane
right.
wide
That's
kind
right.
of a thing.
Okay. Yeah,
And
yeah,
it
yeah,
took
yeah.
off even like that. It didn't shoot up like that rocket. It was different.
Right. And so I wonder if part of that is in the spirit of the competition between a couple of billionaires. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I'm going to space first. And
Yeah.
he's going, yeah, but I'm gonna go up in a giant dick, you know, just so that
Yeah.
you have to see that when you see me. And then I don't know if you tracked any of this, but and I wonder, I'm sure none of this even exists, but I just think it's funny to think about a couple of billionaires that have this kind of money and compete like this. But Richard Branson apparently went like 50 some miles above the atmosphere. Maybe it's 51 miles. There's some line there that
Sure.
is of relevance. And then I saw the other day that Bezos, you know, in his giant dick, what if that should just be the tagline? Bezos and his giant dick. That sounds appropriate. He went to him and his crew. They went to like 61 miles. You know,
Oh
and so it's
goodness.
like, oh man, hey, I got to space first, and it's like, yeah, but you know, I was 10 miles higher than you
It
you were.
definitely like, you know, when you see that guy in that obnoxiously large truck and it's like, dude, you live in the city.
I
Like
just
you don't
I
even
just
go
bought a
off-roading.
lifted truck, so I
You
I
did.
mean I I do. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay. Where you see these things and you're like, all right, that guy's compensating for
Yes.
something,
Yes.
right?
I
Okay.
okay, fine. I
And
have to say this.
sometimes it's just you like a big truck,
Nope,
but
I gotta say because of my prior statement, I want to make it clear that I am on your side. I was at the dealership. We were getting rid of the minivan, and Ashley had been hating the van for a while, and I said, well, we can get rid of it, but I want a full size truck again. It's been too long since I've had a full size truck. And so we go to the dealership, and I found the truck exactly the one that I wanted. They had you know, they had it there, and there was the non-lifted version, and they had a version at the dealership that they lifted and put like bigger tires on. And Ashley, I feel like I'm making excuses. I do like the truck and I think it looks good, but I was looking at that like I don't want to buy that truck because it makes it look like I'm trying to compensate for something. And Ashley was like, "No, the other one looks like a grandpa truck, and you're not going to get it. You're buying that one." And so I got it, but yeah, I'm no joke. While they were doing paperwork, I want to say it was a good 40 minutes of me walking around the dealership, looking at the other truck and like looking at them compared to each other. And like, man, I just don't know. I don't know. I've always been a truck guy. I've never been a lifted truck guy, and so
yeah.
it's
Well, it's a
just
good thing
funny.
you got
Now
that lifted truck since you work from home
that's
in your nice
that's the
suburb
other
of
thing.
Ridgefield.
That's the other part. I told her like a week later, I said, you know, it's so crazy that I went out and I got that truck, but like I haven't gone anywhere in
Where
a week. You know, I work from home now, and it's just funny.
Well, and I
What
know
am I
that
doing?
you and your son go and do like your
Yeah, we
father-son
go
hikes
hikes. Yep,
regularly.
we hikes or we hikes. Yeah, we go on hikes, absolutely, and we
But
have
let's
gone
be
out.
honest, you're taking mostly paved roads to,
I
at
won't
the
say that.
very least, gravel parking lots.
No, no, no. I one of our favorites, the one that we just did the other week, is up off like old logging roads out right at the base of Mount St. Helens. And
Okay.
so there are definitely places that we've taken that. But even that said, I
The
had the Jeep.
Subaru did just fine, didn't it? Oh,
I
you had
didn't.
that Jeep. That's
It
right.
was the Jeep, yeah. And
Okay.
so even that is a little bit of that's a 4-wheel driver, you know. But so there are some, but no, you're right. I bring up that there are some hikes to try and put an asterisk on it. But if we
Yeah.
looked at all the hikes we did, I'm saying 9 out of 10. Like I'm going into a you know, state park and I'm
Yeah.
parking in a parking lot and I'm hitting the trail.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no,
So
you're absolutely right.
my dream rig ever since I was a kid is a lifted Jeep Wrangler. The big
Okay.
tires with
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the matching 5th tire on the back,
Right.
with
Oh,
the
yeah.
cool
Like the
wheels.
winch on the front,
Yep.
and yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And so I've always wanted one. And so, I'm getting closer to a point where it's like, all right, but I've like, I didn't want to just get like a cheap one. So I'm like, all right,
Sure. If you're gonna
I'm
do
going to
it.
wait and do it right.
Yeah.
And so, every once in a while, my kids will ask, Dad, are you finally going to get your Jeep now? You got that new job, like you're making more
Right.
money. You're going
Right.
to go get the Jeep. And I'm like, no, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. Cause when I do it, it's going to be like, that's a Jeep.
Yeah.
But I've always wanted one. But here's the deal. The winch, all that stuff, I will never, ever, ever take it off-roading.
Ever.
I literally, John, the whole reason I want the Jeep is so that on nice days, I can just take the top off
Yes.
and just drive around town
Yep.
on paved roads with my big knobby tires. Like,
which is fun, by the way.
yeah. Well, I too will be that guy.
Yes. Yes.
But that is funny though. But yeah. So here's the thing. Get back to Bezos for a little bit.
Yeah. Sorry. Rabbit trail.
This guy, he gets back from space, and of course they're interviewing him.
Okay.
And now, I don't know if you followed, like, there was some Amazon warehouses that were trying to unionize, and Amazon was hiring lobbyists and put a lot of money into union busting.
Okay.
Leveraged all the assets that he had. With what paper does he own? Is it Washington Post? I think.
I'm not sure.
And
I saw something on Frito-Lay about that recently. I think I don't recall the Amazon, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, yeah, Frito-Lay's seeing it now too, but
yeah.
Amazon people were trying to unionize because there's been all kinds of things about how poor their working conditions are.
Right.
If you're in the warehouse or if you're a driver, right? Like there's been reports of people pooping in bags because they're so scheduled that they don't have enough time. Or like now you can get delivery and assembly on items.
Right.
Well, the people who assemble those, like they're given like 8 minutes to come in and assemble your desk.
Right.
And it's not like they're professional assemblers. They're just a guy like you or I that's like, yeah, I've put some desks together.
That's right. I'm competent enough to put a desk together. That doesn't mean I'm going to do it efficiently. Exactly.
And just like in some stranger's house putting their desk together. It's not like they're like, oh, all I do is put the office furniture together, so I'm really good at it. Right. But all kinds of like just crazy things about that.
I saw a TikTok recently where somebody was filming, I'm sure, against company policy, but they were filming as they were packaging up an item, and the manager came over the loudspeaker to correct some employees who had apparently started getting ready for their break like 30 seconds before the buzzer went off, and was like this manager over the speaker was like, even in a degrading way, reminding workers that if they leave early before the actual break time, that it's like a write up, that would result in them losing their job.
I've heard news stories about workers, if they don't keep up like the right pace or anything for any reason, they'll get fired through an automated text. Hey, thank you so much, but your services are no longer needed at this company.
Wow, that's
just
crazy.
Like, got a text. I'm fired. Okay.
It's crazy efficient.
I know, it is a little impressive, right?
I have an idea.
Poor anybody who works under Jon. All your direct reports are like, dang.
That's right. All my employees are like, oh God.
So I thought it was funny, given all that, right? Given all those things, those complaints, reports, all those different things.
Yep.
That it gets done, and they're doing some interviews, and the guy says this. Oh wait, no, not that one. That's just
that's just the Dr. Evil comparison.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious because you got that, which definitely is just more blatantly like that's definitely
what like. This had to be a design. Somebody
like he looks like Dr. Evil.
Yeah. I feel like an engineer did this as a joke and was like, let's see if we can get away with it.
Yeah.
And like their buddy's like, did you really, dude, that's a giant dick. He's like, yeah, but they're not going to know that. Let's say that it has to look like that. Let's say like, hey, and just in order for, all of the compound forces to not, to apply appropriately, we have to have that mushroom shaped top. Like, look, guys, I'd take the time to explain it to you, but I don't want to insult anybody.
It's too scientific.
It's way too scientific. This is what it has to look like. And And man, I mean, here we are. Sorry. Okay, keep going. It's just every time I see that, it's
Okay, I
crazy
think
to
I
me.
got it now.
Okay,
All
okay.
right.
So here's a
So
video. This is him being interviewed after they
yeah,
got back.
yeah.
Or okay, perfect.
Rocking the cowboy hat too. Like you were in
Yeah,
space for
I've
10 minutes there, Captain. But okay. Uh, he's come back like I want to be a cowboy, baby.
I mean, he looks like a character off the movie Armageddon. Like
Yeah,
he's part of the crew that goes up with Bruce Willis to do
yeah.
an oil rig on an asteroid. And
And
it's
one
I
more
mean, it's the guy,
thing, we don't want to pay taxes
that's
ever.
right. Like the dude's a caricature, it's just funny. All right, let's see what he
So
said.
here's what he has to say. He had a few colorful things, but this is probably the most like common popular one.
Okay.
Let's see here. Is this gonna play?
And then I want to thank every Amazon employee and every Amazon customer because you guys paid for all of this. So seriously, for every Amazon customer out there and every Amazon employee, thank you from the bottom of my heart very much. It's very appreciated.
I'm sure it's so appreciated that he's gonna start like giving them proper breaks and
Right.
actually make them feel human in their jobs. Like from the bottom of my heart, I'm
you.
guessing he did not mean to say employee.
He
and
said
was
it
like,
twice though.
I think he
said
went
it
back
twice.
to it because he's like, well, I'm in it. Like double
Oh.
down. I don't know, man. That just seemed a little odd to me.
Do you feel like I mean it's interesting to me because is it that he's disconnected? I don't know. I mean, I don't want to overanalyze. Maybe he is just trying to say
how could you not be disconnected though? If you're you go back and forth between being like richest guy in America or the world, like
yeah.
And like how could you truly understand what it's like to work in that warehouse?
Right.
And have those stresses of like if I don't hit this number or if I'm an Amazon driver and I stop to take a crap, I gotta poop.
Right.
Like, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to fall behind, lose my job and not be able to pay rent. Like how could you be connected at that point?
Yeah,
and I don't even know if I fault him for that. Like there's just no way you could expect a guy like that to truly understand what life is like.
I don't know. I mean, there's gotta be a way for him to, I don't know, put in an effort so that he doesn't come across like such a, I mean, hey, so like his rocket ship,
like his rocket.
Yeah. Don't come across like your rocket, man.
The guy spent only 10 minutes in space, John, which is still literally longer than his employees have to take a leak for their break. Because they're like those warehouses are so big. They talk about they can't run to the bathroom and back in time. They'll be late for the start of the shift.
Exactly, dude.
It takes me 9.5 minutes just to get to the bathroom. Like, so like literally you only spent 10 minutes in space. It's not like you went to the moon and that was still you spent more time in space than your employees have.
And to thank them. Hey, thank you guys because you paid for this.
Yes.
And it means the world to me. It really means a lot. So thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Almost like any employee you have gives a shit. Do you, you know what I mean? Like any employee is showing up and working in those conditions because they really want to give you the gift of having so much money that you can just be like, I'm going to space today. Who's coming with me? Thanks employees, because you paid for this. It's so man. Yeah. How do you I don't know. The guy just
It just was like so disconnected is the word, right?
Yes,
it's just like that's just I don't know. That just didn't get perceived well. Then even further, so then he proceeded to give two separate people $100 million each to give away to charities. Which is like great. Like awesome. Guy, hey, he's generous. Okay, I appreciate that. Like I certainly don't want to knock that. It's just that kind of weird thing when like more and more stories are coming out about the working conditions of your employees.
Right.
You just decide to piss off and go to space and then come back and thank the workers for paying for this by agreeing to work for like wages low enough that like I still have enough profits that I can go to space.
Right.
And then I'm going to give away $200 million. So clearly like perhaps there, that could have gone into like a charitable fund for helping out Amazon workers who like,
Sure.
are behind on bills or have medical,
Yeah.
like you could do that. You just showed you've got the ability to
Right.
like really say thank you back to your
Hey,
employees.
thank you for giving me this because it's always been a dream of mine. Now this is what I'm giving back to you.
Every employee's getting $1,000 bonus. Thank
And
you.
look, I believe in capitalism. Like, don't get me wrong, right?
Me too.
100%. But that's the thing. It's and the only thing I think that makes it weird is that he made it a point to say thank you as though it was some sort of a gift. Like,
Yes.
I didn't shop at Amazon because I wanted to give you the ability to go to space, right? I mean,
Right.
this is a what's the word I'm looking for? I was going to say contractual agreement, but it's not. It's an exchange of services and goods, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've created a business where you have the item that I'm looking for at a good price with great, delivery and access. And so I'm going to shop there. Your employees are showing up and working because they want to take care of themselves and their families or whatever. I mean, it's all an agreed upon exchange. But when you take it to that kind of weird place of like, hey, thanks for paying for this because this is a
it's not like we all chipped in.
No, we didn't do this for you. And
it's not like all the warehouse employees passed the hat.
Yeah,
like,
it's like, hey, it's Jeff's birthday. What are we going to do for?
Let's send him to space.
Right. And you get some of the guys like, I'm not signing that card. Like, no, I don't want anything to do with that. But look, when he brings it to that place of making it look like it's this, hey, thanks, because that's something I've always wanted and you guys paid for this. That's where you start thinking about, okay, well, then what can you do for them? Yeah. And the reason I bring that up is because I, along with a lot of other people, I'm sure would say, well, he doesn't have to do anything for him. He gave him a job. No, right. I get it. But they didn't do this for him. They just showed up and are working for that. It's like if he's going to take it to that place, he could have also had the opportunity to demonstrate, that he wanted to give back to his employees.
You know that CEO from Seattle, Dan Price? He's the one who famously, like 5 years ago, said, I'm cutting my salary. I'm cutting my salary to $70,000 a year. And now the minimum salary at my company will be $70,000. So the receptionist
I do recall something
will make $70,000. Yeah. Kid in the mailroom makes $70,000. Right. And appropriately, other people will make more than that. But everyone's going to make at least $70,000, right? Right-wing media were like, they ridiculed him for that. He's a socialist commie. It's going to fail. Their business is doing better than ever, by the way. I was one that actually thought he was like, that's not going to work. And whoop, cool. It did. Good. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
So his employees, because he lowered his own salary.
Okay.
To 70,000. Now, granted, he still owns the company, and I was
going to say, right? I feel like a little bit of that is a little bit of,
but he's not cashing in shares. It's a privately owned company. So it's not like Bezos where he can cash in some shares and, any CEO of a publicly traded company. So yeah, he owns the company. Right. So, I mean, and he's certainly not hurting for money. But his employees, to thank him at a certain point, they all chipped in and bought him a Tesla.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. That's when you would say, thank you, employees, because you paid for this.
That's right.
Right.
That is literally your employees paying for you to have something.
Not what happened here.
That's not what happened here.
Oh, gosh. So another wonky thing.
Thanks for working in these conditions for these wages, because that allowed me to do this. I mean, that is what he is saying by that.
Thanks for peeing in Gatorade bottles and pooping in bags.
Right.
Because you paid for this. So thank you.
Dude, I'm working in those conditions. I 100% am squatting into a Ziploc bag and I'm making everybody in there watch me.
John, I'm not going to lie. I'm working from home, and there's sometimes that our Teams meetings run a little long. And I've thought man, like, do I have, could I get away with, I haven't done it. Okay.
Wait, am I rude for just I turned my camera off. I message into the group chat using the restroom. I treat it like if we're in person, I would get up and walk out and go use the restroom if I had to. And
I have done that. But there's been some times where it's just like, I'm actually like, I need to know this information.
Sure,
they're teaching me something that I'm going to have to technical sales. I need to know this.
Yep.
And so I don't want to watch the recording back later. So I'm like, I can hold it. But after a certain while, and if you have a back-to-back meeting and you head right into the next one,
Yep.
You're just like, oh gosh, I should have gone. And now I've joked like, do you think any of you could keep a straight enough face like that we wouldn't know?
Being on camera?
Yeah.
100%. Dude, I feel like I'll take that challenge.
we need to get this out there. The Jon and Nick challenge. Like,
can you use the restroom while on video and have people not know?
So, Jon, I would hate for either of us to try it at our jobs and like maybe something happens and like people know and then we lose our jobs. So,
dude, there's no way. I'm telling you, I'm so confident. Here's the okay. So
I was gonna say trial environment. You try it during the show sometime. Right
here. And then be like, hey, you never would have guessed. Here's what I'm concerned about thinking about it.
Pee.
Yeah, is I feel like what you would need is the right angle, and so I'd have to sit like right on the edge of the chair and kind of like that's going to be the part that is obvious versus just sitting back in your chair.
I have a stand-up desk, and so a lot of the times during the day I'm
that's
standing.
A done deal. Dude, if you're like standing, easy,
super smooth.
That's right. That'd be one of the easiest things I'd ever done. And I could talk to. I'm not saying I will, for anybody that might be listening who knows me outside of this. I'm not saying I would ever do this. I'm so confident in my ability to keep a straight face, however, that I could be presenting to a client and just midstream,
Listen,
no pause for anything.
I will mad props. I will admit you are the master of sales. If you can close a sale,
dude,
while peeing.
A really good friend of mine. I've known him for many, many years. We used to work together, and I would distract him constantly while he was on the phone with clients. And then I was his boss. So I would distract him, but then get mad at him if he appeared distracted. So he'd be talking
on his
to
review,
a customer.
You're easily distracted while talking to him.
He'd be talking to a customer, and I'd like throw something at the back of his head, and he'd turn around and be like, hey, and I'd be like, turn around, get on the, you're talking to a client, show some professionalism, show some tact. And I remembered feeling super proud, like he had graduated from my training, when one day he was on the phone and he had the phone like pinned between his shoulder, and his ear, and he was like trying to write something down while he's talking to a client. And I came up behind him with Scotch tape, and I very quickly taped the top of the phone to his head. Without missing a beat. He's just talking to the customer like I'm not even taping a phone to his head at that moment. And as soon as I was done, the phone was just stuck to his ear. So he let go with his shoulder. He grabbed the pen and the paper he needed, and he's like talking to it's like he's wearing a headset. Did not miss a beat, didn't hesitate, didn't like skip over a word. He was there, focused on the client, and I felt like, dude, you've got it. You've not, and so I stopped messing with him after that.
My favorite was when I worked for a company, and like the whole sales team would come in for these big trainings.
Sure.
And they're bringing like vendors out, like Kimberly-Clark, like a big company, representatives coming out, and they're doing some training on something. And they'd always provide some like fruit, there'd be like fruit, pastries, some grapes, apple. There'd always be a banana. And I'm like, well, they're clearly putting this here because they want me to eat this during the meeting. Right. And you know how sales culture is too. It's like a frat, right? Like sales bros, like especially in like a super, like, we just need to get out there and we need to beat the streets and we just need to like make more calls. Sales bro. Rah!
Right.
And so I would sit there and I would just stare at my friend Mike, and I would just like make eye contact and just
as you're that's wrong.
Just to get him to just like he'd be trying to hold it. Because our like general manager would be in there for like the whole Pacific Northwest, man. And then slowly like I'm just like, they already know I'm an idiot. I didn't have anything to hide. And he's like, oh my gosh, dude.
Oh man.
That was my favorite. So if at any point, Jon, I hear during our podcast, if I hear something like this,
well, that's the other part. I'm
going to be listening for that.
No, I feel like stand-up desk
And
it makes
Stone
it
Cold,
makes
Stone
it so
like
much
eye
easier.
contact the whole time too. You'll be like, well,
Oh
Nick.
yeah. No, I you can't stop talking. That's going to be the trick. You got to just that's just something in the background, whatever. The kids are playing with water guns. It's no big deal.
See, the real Kaiser Sose play here is that since I've made that noise now on camera and called it out,
Right.
now if you just hear it in the background, you're gonna be like, he's just making that joke
Yeah,
again.
he's just got the water bottle again. So no big deal. That's when I'll be like, no, take a drink, Nick. Take a drink on camera. Let us.
At the end of one of our meetings, I had said something. I was like, because it was the meeting that I actually had to present. We had just finished a very long meeting, and it was a 2-hour long meeting. And I did stop and go use the bathroom during that one, but it was getting to the end. I had to go again, and we were starting the next one. And then I was up to present, and I was like, okay, I think I'm okay. But like by the end of that hour-long meeting, they were like, well, everybody did a good job. And I just said, hey, and I had to pee since the last meeting. So I would just like some extra credit for like my composure.
Right.
And they're all
Can I get
laughing.
some kudos?
Yeah. They're all laughing about like, no, you don't have like a milk jug. And then we're like, all of us are like brainstorming ideas. I was like, well, I was thinking like if I kept a funnel and got some of that like rubberized tubing like around the funnel, and then I could have like a bucket, like
right.
You can make this happen. And then one of the other guys,
you could have it far enough away that the mic doesn't pick it up.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just hit mute. Like it was just funny because then one of the other guys who clearly didn't have the same sense of humor as like my manager and like a couple of people was like, okay, on that note, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Be like, see, the workplace harassment is going to sound and look different now in the remote workspace.
Right.
Like, they're talking about peeing in bottles and that makes me uncomfortable. Literally, that would never happen if we were all in the workplace. It would be he stole my lunch.
Oh, too good.
Yeah. Well, should we get into the meat of this, John?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'll tee this up for you.
Okay.
So last week we talked about we were talking about COVID, the vaccine, and how when your wife was going.
Yep.
And we're talking about the time you texted me like, "Am I really that guy?" And like the obvious answer was, "Yeah," like almost always, and like almost intentionally, like all that kind of stuff. And so you kind of came up with that, like, am I really the a-hole here in this situation?
Yep.
And then you made me aware of the Reddit, like, what do they call it? Like,
there's
a thread?
There's a whole, it's a
they're not
group.
forums.
I think they're called groups. Yeah.
Okay.
You can join. God, I don't know.
I'm not down with
wrong.
the lingo. Is it a subreddit? Is that how it works?
Yeah, maybe that is. Dude, I feel like we're old. We are old right now. I think that's, but you can join the subreddit, right? So I look at it as a group, but there is a group on Reddit called Am I the Asshole? And it's where people will post these, lengthy stories and like throw it out there for everybody on Reddit to comment and judge them if they're the asshole or not. And
so we thought like this would be the perfect segment for us to take a look at some of these from time to time. And full, like, spoiler alert for anybody listening, John almost always thinks that they are an asshole.
Yes,
like, almost always. Like,
that's because I think all people are.
Yes,
or at least we all have the capability of being, and
everybody shares some of the blame.
That's right. But I would extend it because I feel like if you are going onto a public, internet forum and throwing your laundry out there, you are an asshole. Like either way, if you're throwing it out there and saying, "Hey, can you judge this and tell me if I'm wrong or not?" Like I feel like me and you, it's a little different if I'm talking about something.
Sure.
And as longtime friends, me, and there are times where you're gauging with your friends to see
strangers on the internet.
That's right. Like, am I over the line here? Yeah. If you're throwing it out there on a forum for strangers, then chances are, and I ran into these and looking at them, chances are, not you're also you're manipulating the story in a way that obviously positions you as the good guy. And it's like, look, the fact that you're even here, you're just looking for validation to feel better about what you did. You're already an asshole, right? You know what I mean? Like that's.
part of my love of this segment is not only just like honest discussion, like what's
Yeah,
actually
sure.
going on,
Yeah, some of these are
but
good.
is that trying to find ones that Jon won't think that they are.
Sure.
And then, but knowing that you most likely will anyways, it's fun for me to hear your justifications
Right.
as to why they are still an asshole with that. So,
Yes. Okay.
so this is a fun segment. Over time, as we actually like grow a listening audience and all that, it would be fun for people to submit their own scenarios
absolutely.
to us and actually get that listener mail. We used to do a lot of listener mail.
We did. Back in the Mad
we-
podcast, we got listener mail and would cover a lot of those. We could do these and we could change the names obviously to protect the innocent. That's what a lot of people on Reddit I'm finding are doing when they're posting their stories. So that could be a lot of fun.
So okay, Jon, why don't you get us started?
I got a couple here.
Lay one out here.
I'll throw the first one out. This is the one I'm probably just in skimming it. I'm probably the most sensitive to. Like I'm going to be kinder. I think I'm going to be a little more kind. All right. So this the title of this is "Am I the asshole for how I reacted when my husband said he won't be with me when I give birth?" I mean, so one side of the story here. Let's hear it. My husband, 33, and I, a 26-year-old, are expecting our first baby together. I have a scheduled C-section on Sunday, and my husband said he can't be there with me because he has a business trip that he'll be leaving for on Saturday evening. He said he couldn't skip the trip even if he tried, and claimed that because he missed several work trips in the past 6 months, he's worried he might lose his job if he declined to go. I asked him if he could explain to them that you have a valid reason not to come, but he said his boss doesn't listen and doesn't care. The problem is that this is my first time, obviously, right? She said it's their first kid. And like any other woman, I wanted my husband to be there with me as support. His excuse was that I have an entire medical team, and it's not like this was a natural birth because I'll be under anesthesia. He suggested that I take my mom or his mom with me, but as a father, I expected him to be the first person to want to welcome our son, even if he couldn't be in the room. He said if he stayed there, wasn't much he was going to do, since again, I'll have doctors and nurses taking care of me. But if he goes on this trip, then he'll bring home money to support us. But I told him emotional support can never be replaced if my own husband won't be there to provide it for me. He clearly got upset over me continuously bringing this up. And this morning we had an argument where he called me selfish and making him look like a bad husband and dad, and accusing him of not caring about meeting his baby when he's trying to support us. I got mad at him for calling me that and mentioned he had no consideration for how I feel about this and acting like my concerns weren't valid. He said he got sick of arguing, grabbed his phone and keys, and was about to leave. Before he left, he said I shouldn't worry because I won't die, which was a rude thing to say, given that I have my own concerns since this is my first time. He texted me apologizing for what he said, but said I keep pressuring him knowing his circumstances. More to add, the previous trips that he missed over the last 6 months were over his friend's wedding, his brother's welcoming party, and his cousin's trip. If he could skip work trips for these reasons, then I wonder why his child's birth isn't necessary enough for him to stay. Am I the asshole?
Oh, gosh. Okay. So first of all, like I would say in this case, for me, no. This person is not for expecting her husband to be there in the delivery, right? Like, and if and he's playing the martyr that like, hey, I'm just trying to provide for the family. Like, first of all, if I were the employer, if I were that guy's boss, I would seriously I would be very concerned about an employee who was going on a work trip instead of like going. That just
dude, 100%.
That would really make me question their judgment. And like, this guy's got some, like, we're letting this person represent our company to customers. Like, I don't know about that. That seems a little like, just from a psychological perspective, like the kind of guy that would do that, I'd be like, we need to like maybe talk and make sure that you need to learn some of those soft skills.
That's
like, How are you talking to our customers? Because you
I would never.
clearly
I
have
would never
no
allow it.
compassion.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I mean, shoot, even Andy Reid, football coach, just won the Super Bowl. No, it wasn't the coach of the Bucks. Okay, not Andy Reid. The heck was that guy's name? I forget. Coaching the Bucks, used to coach the Cardinals against us. He put out a thing that like he threatened all of his assistant coaches, like if you miss one of your kids' games, if you miss anything because of a team meeting or any of this prep stuff, like you can do the prep later. Like obviously you got to be there on Sunday game day, like that's kind of different.
Right.
But like he was like, don't you dare miss one of your kids' recitals or something to come sit in some meeting where we could get your 2 cents on it later. Like that was huge. I was really impressed by that. So I would be a little concerned with this guy, like as my employee, I'd be like, we need to do some, like, we need to talk. So the whole thing about like, you're not going to die. I mean, shoot, I think of like when Harper was born, like,
and Liam, but Harper's was worse. But yeah, I mean, that was a scary situation.
I thought of you guys immediately when you were like, hey, like, things aren't good. Like, and it was a C-section. It was scheduled. They knew that. And there was, everything was okay.
To give some context for people who I've not talked to about this.
I hope I didn't offer that up to.
Oh God, no, I don't care. No, God, no, I don't care about that. But I'll make it brief just to give a glimpse. It's the second C-section we had. Ashley, had the blanket, basically the cloth covering, so we couldn't really see what was going on. But as I'm sitting there next to her, just like with Liam, I'm able to stand up and look over and actually see them perform the work. I saw Liam get pulled out. I saw Harper get pulled out. But after Harper was born and we hugged her and like, okay, they take the baby away to clean the baby up and weigh and do all the tests that they do for the newborn screenings. It started getting crazy. And it was like everybody's, speaking much more urgently. The doctor had ordered more blood. At one point, the doctor was saying, where are we at on the blood? And
that's never what you want to hear.
No. And one of the nurses behind me said, we're about 20 minutes out because of testing. And I kid you not, I felt like I was in an episode of ER. The doctor said, we're not going to have 20 minutes.
Oh,
and I was like, what in the heck? And so I stood up and looked over, and I kid you not, like, I think it was her uterus. I don't know like what all it was there, but I saw blood everywhere. Doctor standing over my wife, and she had what I think was her like uterus basically. And she's like, she's got it in her hands and massaging it like incredibly fast, just back and forth, and it was just a mess. And so then, like I look down and my wife is just ghost white. And she actually, said, am I going to die? And I was like, oh no, like, babe, they got this under control. You're totally fine. And in my mind, I'm
looking back over the curtain, like, no, they're good. You're like,
yeah, you're right. I'm like, if I've ever lied, that was I was like, yeah, but I didn't want to be like, you might, hey, this might be it. At least you got to see our daughter on your way out,
I'll take good care of her.
But yeah, that was a scary situation. And at the end of it, they ended up moving forward. The reason that the blood was taking a long time is because her and I are opposite blood types. And there's something about that, like O to B or something, where there could be issues. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. People who know about this stuff will likely know what I'm trying to say.
And as they're listening, they're correcting you.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
They're yelling at their car.
And just for clarification, yes, you are an asshole. But
so when I hear this, like, I immediately think of that whole scenario, right?
Yes.
Like you'll be fine. There's doctors. Stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. I have never felt more useless in my life
100%.
Than when my wife was delivering our 2 children.
That's right.
Like, I'm there, but like her mom was there for the first one, especially her mom's there squeezing her hand, like has been through it. And I'm just like, you're doing great.
Right.
Remember you're breathing.
Yeah.
Like, but She didn't
Yeah.
she didn't give a crap about anything I was offering up for like my little platitudes and like,
Right.
remember the birth plan we came up with. Now we're
Yes.
gonna play "Kissed by a Rose" by Seal. Like it's just like not, now we're gonna light the incense, and she's just like, get the baby out of me.
Right.
I never felt more useless. So I understand that this guy maybe doesn't feel like it's a big deal. I read this whole thing and I go, these two people are not going to be married in 5 years. Because if this is where like he's at as far as how important the children are, they're going to have such differing like value systems as parents. And I have a feeling that 5 years from now, no way these two people are married.
Yeah. The short answer, if I can even give those, is this guy's a douche. This guy sounds like an absolute douchebag.
Yeah.
I mean,
took all those other trips. He might actually be on the verge of getting fired if he misses another trip because he wasted all of those like get out of jail free cards on stupid crap.
Part of me, I mean, if I'm just, hey, our goal here in these things is to judge. So if I'm judging and I am, I think he's full of it anyways when he says,
I don't believe him.
My boss doesn't care. He doesn't like, no, you don't. For some reason, you are not placing a priority on the birth of your child. And that makes me like, look at this guy like an absolute piece of trash. There's, in my opinion, there's no excuse. If I was working for a company or for a boss who was like, no, you're going to go on this trip and miss the birth of your child or you're fired. I'd be like, you're gone. I'm out. Cool. In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. Slow mic drop. That's right. Yeah. Like, oh, it's on Sunday and, today's Friday. So, okay. I got, a couple of days. I'm going to get my resume together because I quit that job. I'm going to be there for the birth of my kid and we'll figure it out. Yeah. 100%. This guy sounds like an absolute just trash bag. I mean, it's just nothing. So
John, is this one of the rare times where like, are you...
Well, that's where I was saying I'm going to be nicer, right? Because I think in the context of what she's asking for, right? If I'm answering her question, she is not an asshole for wanting her husband to be there. Okay. And this guy at 33 should have his life figured out a little bit better, should have his priorities figured out a little bit better, right? And like there's no excuses, there's no more hand holding. You're an asshole, like the guy. And you should be there. Now, having said that, this is maybe where it goes off the rails a little bit to answer a question that she didn't ask, right? She's 26. Okay. She's had enough time to figure out who she's spending her time with, right? I think that there needs to be some personal responsibility. And this guy didn't get to 33 and have this much of a contrast in values, in whatever it is, whatever the rest of the relationship looks like, right? That didn't just happen overnight. Okay. This guy who from the little bit that I've read is one of the biggest asswipes I've ever heard of in my entire life, likely had a million signs that pointed to that. Sure. And so to me, this woman is an asshole because like you chose to be with this guy. Like at what point, if family's important to you, if all these things that you look for, if you want somebody that's going to be there and be a provider and be a protector and be a good role model and all of these things, why does it matter the week before the C-section when it should have mattered when you started dating this guy? It should have mattered before you said yes, right? It should have mattered before you signed up for this partnership. Like, so at a certain point, I know I'm going to get, probably nailed for victim blaming and all of that, but I'm sorry. Like, you got to have some personal responsibility here because your child didn't ask to be born, didn't ask for that asswipe to be his father, right? And you had the ability to impact this, and you chose poorly. So don't choose poorly and then throw your crap out on the internet and like expect everybody to just make you feel validated. Sure. Like there's a kid now involved, and that kid and you are going to have to live with consequences for your poor decisions. Like
Okay,
at some point, we have to own it.
If I to try and bring like I guess a teachable moment from all this. From what I'm hearing you say
yes.
is like I get what you're saying, right? Like this
Right.
wasn't this, there's no way this was the first sign of this, right? What was it when we were texting about this scenario? What did you refer to? Like, this is probably one of those flat bill gauge wearing, like you started describing.
Yes, like this is probably a guy that wears flat bill hats with gauge earrings. He's probably got a neck tattoo, right? And I'm not knocking tattoos. I obviously have my own, but he's probably got the tattoos that go up onto his hands and on his knuckles.
No, but John, yours is really original because you did a sleeve and nobody does that.
That's right. That's right. But yes, that's the thing. 100%. And it's like these women choose guys like this. Then there's no communication or very little, right?
Before the mob comes, with the cancel mob wants to take John down for victim blaming. I have to say, like, I hear this. I'm hearing this through like I'm hearing this through the perspective of like we both have daughters.
Sure.
And so these are like, this is the way I would explain to my daughter, like, listen, you need to choose wisely. Obviously, this girl's already in this relationship. She's already done that. So I'm not saying like, well, you should have known better. But like, this is like that teachable moment for people. Like, how would I communicate to my daughter and how do I talk to my daughter about potentially if, taking a spouse someday and like dating and all that is like, you have to be smart enough to choose wisely. Yes. And that's what that dating process is for, is you're vetting that person. And if there's those red flags that like you're seeing these kinds of things, they can never miss anything important to them for something that's important to you, but they can always rearrange their schedule to go on a fishing trip with their buddies.
That's right.
Like
people
those
take
are those
time
things
for the things they care about.
I'm trying to add some humanity to your perspective.
You don't think what I'm saying is that look, I'm not above victim blaming. All right. Not at all. Now listen, the advice that I would give my daughter, the advice that I would give this person isn't, well, it's too late, right? You screwed up.
Right.
I think we need to take away a teachable moment, which is these are the things, this is why it's so important for us to make better decisions, right? Yes. Take some ownership in every aspect of our lives so that when and if we end up in situations, we're mitigating some of the potential damage, some of the potential risk, right? If I do a better job of being communicative with my spouse or potential spouse, if I do a better job of trying to vet and pick a good partner, then there's a really good chance that by the time I'm married and, pregnant, I'm not going to be shocked by some change in value systems. Yeah. Right. It's likely that you got into this place in large part because you weren't talking about these things on the front end. You're just being young and dumb and, probably with people for the wrong reasons, or, you think they're really hot and it's like, or they're the bad boy. Right. And
or
it's like,
I'll change them. I'll change them.
Oh God, that's another
like,
one.
Getting married doesn't make a jerk stop being a jerk.
That's right. And so to that end, we all make judgments and have to make choices every day. And like, there's absolutely times growing up in the neighborhood I did where I'm walking down the street and I see a group of people walking towards me and I have to make a decision. Is it worth me walking through the middle of these guys because I should be able to, or should I cross the street? Should I cross the street and potentially avoid a conflict that is known to happen in the environment that I was living in? Right. Yeah. So there is an aspect of, you walked right in the middle of them because you quote unquote should be able to in America.
Right.
Like, no, make better choices. Right.
Let's be honest though, John, there's a fair amount of times you walked through the middle.
100%. 100%. Yeah, okay. but that's what I'm saying is like, when you make poor choices, you have to live with the consequences.
Yeah. So it's that saying, play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
That's right. It's like the advice I would give her is not like, well, you screwed up, so deal with it. It's okay. given the environment you're in, what are the best things that you could be doing here? And I wouldn't be talking like down to her, but for everybody else, I'm highlighting this is why it's important. This is what makes this person an asshole, is because they likely, disregarded key signals, disregarded their future, disregarded all of these things for the wrong reasons, and hitched their cart to somebody who doesn't share apparently some pretty critical values, right? In regards to family, but now you're married to that person, you're partnered with that person. And so yeah, absolutely. I mean, that the learning moment, like for my daughter is, hey, look at this example and don't be like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Be tougher, be tougher, be tougher on your potential boyfriends, be tougher on, especially if you think it's going to be a husband one day. I mean, there's real conversations that should happen, and they really don't. By and large, a lot of people take that for granted, and it's like, no, I'm just with them because it feels good, and because I think they look good, and so I'm proud to be next to them when we're out in public. And it's like, none of that's going to matter in 20 years. It's definitely not going to be the same. And so at the end of the day, if you're not investing in communication and figuring out how you're going to plan on building a life together and making sure that you're all on the same page, children, finances, right? A lot of these things are the primary reasons for divorce, and people aren't having conversations about them going into it. So the fact that you obviously have not, and now you're here on the internet looking for validation from
appealing
strangers
to the masses. Yeah,
that's right. Like no, you are. You're absolutely an asshole, but he is too.
And a bigger one.
And I agree. An absolute piece of crap. But you picked him.
It's definitely
nobody else picked him. He's not married to anybody else.
That's going to be the dad that never comes to the kid's game, right? Like
I've 100%.
I've coached
100%.
Sports. I've coached sports long enough that like there's kids who like you never ever meet their parents. Like they never come to one of their wrestling matches.
Crazy to me.
And I'm not talking about the ones that like because they they work evenings, or like there's all kinds of like legitimate reasons to not be able. But if somebody wrestles for 4 years
and you don't know who their parents are,
you can't make it to one. You couldn't make it to one.
My kid's 6 and just finished T-ball, and there were some parents who would like drop their kid off to go practice and just like sit in the car or wait or drop them off and then head out. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, these are 6-year-olds.
I know that you
can't take the time.
I know there's all kinds of different like work. Some jobs you can't just take time off of work, right? Like it's harder, it's whatever. My dad worked shift work, and he was at almost all of my wrestling matches. There were certain ones where it was like, all right, this one's a fish. You're going to just pin this kid in 20 seconds. I'm not like taking the day off for that. But like, especially all the big ones. And like my dad would cash in floaters. My dad would even go like, he would work graveyard and then go to a tournament like to watch and even help coach. And then like go to work that next night again on like hardly any sleep.
Right.
Like he found a way. And now different level of commitment. Not everybody has to be held by that same standard. I'm getting off topic here, but
no, it's
like,
all good. We can talk about this.
I just feel like this is going to be that guy that never, ever, ever like would rearrange his schedule for that. But if he got to go shoot around a golf with his friends or something,
he would do it.
Yeah.
He would do
in
it.
A heartbeat.
My dad was the exact opposite of yours. He didn't go to a single sporting event that I ever had. I wrestled through high school.
Could he have
100% could have.
Those are the ones that I'm talking about, not the ones where it's like legitimately like
but here's the thing that he would do, and it makes me think of this guy, which is maybe why I don't like this guy so much. It would
daddy
be
issues coming out.
Yeah, I know, right? It would be no, I got to work. I got to put a roof over your heads and food on the table. And so he would go out on business trips a lot. And what I found as I got older, which is what I suspected when I was younger, is it wasn't that he really had to do those things. It was that he chose those things for whatever reason, because he was more comfortable out there working than he was being a dad, than he was being home, right? And so he was gone a lot. And even when he was there, he wasn't really present. And so it's interesting because I think you and I are similar today, but for different reasons. You're similar because you had a good example and you're replicating good behavior. And I'm that way now where I'm not going to miss these events and I'm going to prioritize them. And I would quit a job in a heartbeat if somebody, tried to take away that from me or make it seem like my work needed to be more important. But I'm that way because I had a bad example and I'm not going to allow my kids to know what that was like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think about this guy and it's like, no, man, you're just kind of you're a chump, and absolutely when you start looking at the other things that he's allegedly taken, time off for, but not for the birth of his kid. No, there's just no excuse.
Yeah.
So I think they're both, assholes.
We got pretty as I've come to expect from you, Jon.
That's right.
There would be no other. We got pretty heavy on that.
We did. That took some time.
We went to some childhood. What do you want to do? Do you want to, we're at an hour 10. Do you want to do another one of these or do you want to hang on to some of those and you want to call it? What do you want to do?
Man, I mean, I love talking about these. So I think we could do one short one here.
Okay.
And then call. I had two more, but let's not do two. I'll do one quick one just to give us a little bit more, things to talk about on this episode. But we'll try to wrap it up here in, 15, 20 minutes.
Okay. What do we got here?
All right. Am I the asshole for not answering work emails while on vacation, resulting in the loss of a client? My husband and I took a much needed vacation to the beach last week. And the entire week before we left, I sent emails around letting everyone know I'd be completely inaccessible for the week. So to come and see me for any work materials needed, files, etc. I gave everyone everything I knew or thought they'd need and left confident that everyone had prepared themselves, seeing as I'd given them 8 days to prepare. When I returned to the office, I found chaos. Apparently, one of my colleagues had needed files for a particularly important client of ours and had not been able to find them in my office, and I never responded to calls or emails as I warned I wouldn't do. This coworker knew they'd be handling this client and had 8 days and 12 hours a day to ask me for all pertinent files and appears to have not. In any case, I was blamed because the client is technically mine and I am the supervisor of this coworker. I contend that I am blameless because this coworker had 8 days to collect all their files like their other coworkers did, and they neglected to do so. No one seems to care about that. Am I the asshole here?
Okay, this one hits a little close to home because I've been in some of those outside sales jobs where it's like, it's tough to take vacation and not have to answer some urgent emails and, and you know how it is when you're commission based.
100%. Yeah.
Like I was visiting my parents once we were on vacation in Florida. I was laying on the beach, saw somebody finally got back to me and said, "Hey, I'm finally ready to place that first order." And so I'm like, I'm getting right on this. So I forward that on to our customer support team. Hey, let's get this order placed, get it out. Like that was the first order. I called it the one-handed pay raise. I did it from my phone laying on the beach. Like, woo, commission, baby.
Right.
That kind of stuff. But at the same time, I wouldn't expect anyone to do that. Like that's me. And it didn't, we were sunbathing. It didn't take any time. It's not like we were like getting in line for a ride at Busch Gardens. And I'm like, no kids, sit there and be quiet for a second. Daddy's got to work. Like,
right.
We're laying on the beach. Didn't take any time away from anyone.
Yep.
Right. And so it didn't even get a tan line from the phone because I got it just right so that the shadow wasn't cognizant of that.
Right.
But gosh, should he be at fault for this scenario? If, first of all, was she?
Yep.
Okay. If it, well, then she's definitely, no, I'm kidding.
That's right. That's right. My mind's already made up.
Okay. If this was actually all as well communicated and thought out and thorough as she claims in this, which probably isn't the case. I don't know. I would just be like, did you really communicate 100%. As clearly as you think?
Of course she didn't.
But where I would say that she owns some blame is that if you're a supervisor and you have cultivated a culture where it can't survive, where deals are lost if you take a vacation, then you're failing as a leader to put the mechanism in place, cross-train people. And again, I don't know what this job situation is like. So maybe I'm the a-hole here. Maybe
no,
I'm not understanding.
you're not. I'm going to go a different direction than you, but I'm on the same point, but keep going.
Okay. I feel like from a management perspective, from a leadership perspective, it is on you to be able to cross-train and make sure that other people know how to do some of these things that you do. So often people don't like to cross-train, especially managers, and relinquish any of that because it's like, well, if they know how to do what I do, then like they could do this without me, right? There's that pride of like, well, I'm a manager, so everything I do is so hard for you to understand. So I feel like where the real blame is in not making yourself able to be gone for a couple of days. How hard are these files to get? Are they locked up in a vault? Do you work for Lockheed Martin? What is this? That's like, is this the FBI? Like, there's no context there. Like, what are they? Physical files? Are they just in a freaking cabinet? Is this a computer file? You guys are on a network, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about here? So I don't know. I think some of that cross-training, I think there's some leadership failures. Clearly they need to get a better plan in place for coverage for when people are going to be gone. And
it makes you wonder
I blame the person a little bit for that, at least.
Yes. But when she says, and I never responded to calls or emails as I warned I wouldn't do. It's like, so the impression that I'm left with is, so you got them. You were getting them.
Okay.
I can't think of a time. That. You're right. You were getting them, but this was a weird point you were hanging on. Like, nope, I told everybody, you didn't go
camping out of cell range.
No, she said they went to the beach.
Okay.
And it doesn't even say that she would be out of range. It says she's going to be completely inaccessible because she's on vacation.
Okay.
And then said, I didn't respond to calls or emails as I warned I wouldn't do. So that has me thinking already. You're a bit of an asshole. But on the supervisor note, I frankly don't think you're a supervisor or any kind of real leader, or you're in a leadership position, and you should not be, period. If you are a supervisor and you are saying, I contend that I am blameless, right? Because this coworker had 8 days to collect all their files like their other coworkers did, and they neglected to do so. No one seems to care about that. That you're not a leader. Like, if you are a supervisor, it is your fault. The buck stops with you. You have to own what you are in ownership of, right? Like, if mistakes happen with my department, I don't look at the individual that made the mistake. It's not that individual's fault. I have to look at what did I either do wrong or have failed to do to properly train and equip my staff so that they can do the job as expected. Yeah. Right? It's my issue because I own this department. And so for somebody to have that attitude of like, I gave them 8 days, and frankly, let me go back to it. I gave everyone everything I knew or thought they'd need, and left confident that everyone had prepared themselves. Everything about her language, it screams to me that, well, I let you know I was going to be out and I wasn't going to be answering the phone or responding to emails. So you tell me what you're going to need, right? It's the onus. She put the onus on everyone else to make sure they had what they needed. And that is completely opposite. Even for my staff who are not in management roles, right? If you're going to be gone and your clients are going to need some sort of care, I absolutely expect you to make sure that you have somebody lined out to take your spot, that communication has been handled so your client knows who to reach out to, and that person who is going to be taking your spot for the week or however long you're gone is equipped. Yeah. If you come back and a client fires us because they did not have what they needed, that is not on the person who was filling in for you. Absolutely not. Like, this is your responsibility. You need to be the one to set people up for success and ultimately to take care of the client, especially if you're acknowledging that you are solely responsible for the relationship with this client. Because chances are, right? And I'm maybe taking this too high level here, but just spitballing. You didn't have an important client to the company fire you because while you were on vacation, one coworker couldn't find one file. Okay.
Right.
This was something that obviously has been coming down the line for some time. And this may have been the straw that broke the camel's back, but there's a good chance. And I'm going to assume this by the way that you're passing the buck in the message. There's a good chance you failed this relationship from the very start.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
You have been failing this relationship multiple times. And so whether this was the thing that did it or not, you are the one that's responsible. Because I'll tell you this, I manage a group of people who manage client relationships, right? Every single one of my account managers who manages personal relationships and business relationships with our clients, every single one of them, if they ran into this exact scenario and they went on vacation and this client ran into a big issue and they needed something and the person filling in couldn't find it, and for some reason we all just had our heads up our ass for that day and like couldn't handle, the client is not firing us. Right. Because everything else that the account manager did before vacation were the right things. You're doing the right things. And people are going to get through a tough spot and say, okay, no, we get it. You were on vacation. Like, make sure that next time you go on vacation, we're better prepared and equipped. But they're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Right. And these are clients that spend a lot of money every month for services. So everything about this story just comes across as one, not only are you an asshole, but you are a incredibly poor leader. You are not somebody that I would ever put in a supervisor position. You're not somebody that I would ever encourage anybody to work for. If every time you run into a problem, you're immediately looking for who to blame and why it's somebody else's fault instead of owning the problem and finding solutions.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's interesting. So like, one of the best leaders that I ever worked for was when I was working in a corporate accounting gig. And our manager, she was amazing. And I hated it at the time, but yet it came in very handy. She made us all like, cause we all had a little piece of it was the cash management side. So it had to do with like, we were the corporate accounting department for a retail chain.
Okay.
And so all those individual stores every night were supposed to make the deposits. And so we all had like a book of like 100 different stores that we had to make sure to like reconcile all those deposits. Did they get made? If not, we had to call, track it down. And then we all had other responsibilities. So we weren't all doing the same things. We were all doing different things.
Sure.
Or similar things dealing with different people. And so she would make us write procedures for those like more just standardized like tasks, right? I hated it. And she would always like, listen, if we get to the end of the week, you got some time, you need something to do, update your procedures. She was constantly like, update your procedures. And I was like, oh, this is so stupid. I was 28. This is so dumb. Like, until I had to cover for somebody. And she would always make sure that we were cross-training with people.
Yep.
So you had your buddy that you cross-trained for. So if you took a day off, they could still like, things could get done.
That's right. That's right.
I didn't have to know how to do Sue's job as well as Sue, but I needed to at least know what Sue's job entailed.
Right.
And then Sue's responsibility was to make sure those procedures were good enough that I could fumble through them.
Sure.
And get it done. So that we didn't run into a situation where like, oh, no, that's Sue. She's not here.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. But this, and so I really came to appreciate it. Like at the time, didn't like it until I needed like, oh gosh, I got to cover for Sue, or I needed to be gone. And thank God somebody knew how to cover my stuff.
Right.
And so, but she believed in it so strongly. She did it for herself too. Some of those responsibilities that were the managers. So she had a number 2 that she deemed, this is my assistant manager. And when I am gone, she is the acting manager. And she has the authority to go in and access the files that she needs that I might be able to do to answer this for, one of the comptrollers or the CFO sometimes would be like, hey, I need this report. And so like she made sure it was the most thorough I've ever seen that done. And so like, when I look at that, I'm like, that's what good looks like.
Yeah.
That's clearly not the situation here. Now, different working dynamic. Obviously I don't know, but I'm willing to bet that you could put those like checks and balances and secondary chain of, who's in charge, person in charge kind of a thing. Like it, to me, it just reeks of that's bad leadership. And you have to own that at the end of the day. Like you said, you have to take ownership, even if it's like, yeah, dang, you know what? I didn't realize that I hadn't equipped anyone. I didn't realize
right.
that I've just been holding this all to myself. So look at whoever your boss is and go, you know what? I'm going to take that. Like I blew that and I apologize, but now I know here's the steps I'm going to take to fix this. So this doesn't happen again. And we're going to be a better department for it. Right. Like that's
right.
how you spin it.
But look, it starts at the top, and it's not to say that she's the only asshole in this equation.
Might be the company culture. Yeah,
That's
it might be everyone.
Exactly right. Somebody put her in that position, and it's just like I was ragging on the girl from before for choosing the guy, right? And now she's dealing with the consequences.
Sure.
Somebody above this person put her in a supervisor role, and so now if that person is blaming her for losing this client, it's like, well, you have to take ownership as well, right? There's a lot of people in this.
Yeah.
And that's my thing is at the end of the day, we should constantly be looking at, well, what is within my control? And if there's something that I'm responsible for, what am I doing within my control to make sure that it's done right? And when things are done wrong, instead of looking for somebody to blame, can I implement something that helps us get better and reduce the risk of this happening again? And so I feel like if everybody, had that attitude, I mean, we'd run into less things to talk about on the podcast.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that's what I got. I mean, I have another one, but we'll save that for the next time we want to do the segment. I think that's safe. And hey, I'm two for two now. All right. 2 for 2 that they're both assholes.
Oh, definitely. I was trying to get our email address up here and I don't know what just happened. Stall, John. It's a live show. Stall.
So, yeah. So anyway.
Heard any good jokes?
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay. So if you have a scenario, if you've got a listener mail, you got a scenario, you got something you want some to know if you're the asshole or if
yeah, that's right.
Or maybe
you just want me to call you one, because chances are that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. Look, just know if you've listened to this show, just know what's going to happen. Okay.
That's right. That's right.
Feel free, hit us up at johnandnickshow@gmail.com. You can send that to us, and or any other listener mail. Maybe you got a scenario, you want an opinion on it. Maybe you're dealing with something. Another popular one from time to time that we used to have is if you just have something that annoys you, but you don't feel that you could do justice ranting about it. Okay, we will take your frustrations on us.
That's right.
As Jesus took the sin of the world onto him on the cross, we will take the frustrations of our listeners and we will rant about it for you.
That's
okay?
right. That's right.
Or we might just end up making fun of you for being upset about whatever the scenario is. Could go either way. Who knows?
So I saw this would be hilarious. And we've not talked about this. I just think it's really funny. I saw a TikTok the other day. I don't remember the guy's name. I'll say John, but I don't know that it was John. He started his own TikTok channel, and it's called like John Gives Bad News. And
Okay.
people pay him to call somebody in their life and break bad news to them.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he records it when he does it.
Oh,
and
we could so do that.
That's what he makes his content on. And it's so funny because he's like, hey, is this Ethan? Well, yeah. Your friend Nick paid me to give you some bad news. You're no longer in the business, and he shredded up your card today. And you hear the guy like, no, this is ridiculous. He's like, hey, sorry, I don't know. I'm just telling you that's what I was hired to do. And so, it just cracks me up. So yeah, it was something like that. So yeah, hey, maybe at some point, if you want us to reach out to somebody on your behalf and give them bad news, let us know. I think that's hilarious.
johnandnickshow@gmail.com, breaking all your bad news. Or maybe you're trying to end a relationship. Okay.
Right.
But you don't know how, and you just can't listen.
Yeah.
We will break up with him or her for you.
In a heartbeat. And I'll make them feel good about the end. You know what I mean? Like they'll be motivated. They'll have a renewed sense of purpose and
better
life.
days ahead.
That's right. 100%. You want to see us sell something. I will break up with somebody for you and have them looking at you like a better person
I
for
love that so much.
for
I love
giving
that
them
idea.
the opportunity. I think it's great.
Whoop. Or if you want to quit your job, but you just don't know how to tell your boss that it's over.
I'll tell him.
Bloop, right there.
Right there.
Hit us up, yo.
That's
Just-
right.
Just johnandnickshow@gmail.com and we'll figure out a way to make that happen.
Yes, easily.
Oh man, that could get messed up pretty quickly. I love it.
I can't wait.
All right, you got anything else, John?
I don't think so, man. It was good hanging out today.
Yeah, definitely. All right, for the Jon and Nick Show, I'm Nick.
I'm John.
And we'll see you next time.